So right on schedule, you quieted down. It's like, it's amazing. Will that happen when the sanctuary is full? I don't think so. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being out there in the ether. I don't see anybody on the pavilion, but if you're out there and I can't see you, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you all with us this morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples. I'm grateful for your presence. I'm grateful for the presence of Daniel Goodsit in the AV room, of our new co-music directors, Abby and Sean Allison, and especially this morning grateful for my partner here at the other podium, Larry McCarthy, who will be your worship associate this morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here this morning with all the members and friends of this congregation. Welcome to those in the sanctuary and to those at home. And a special welcome for those visiting for the first or second time. We are so pleased you are all joining us today. If you're viewing online, we hope you will make yourself known in the live chat on Facebook so that we can say hello. If you find you want to know more about us, please email our administrator, Anna Riazzi, at office@uunaples.org. She will then include you in our regular news blasts about all the excellent things going on at UUCGN. If you're here with us for the first time in person this morning and are feeling brave, let us know by raising your hand so we can greet you after the service. We remind everyone present and viewing online that UUCGN endorses and will continue to follow current CDC guidelines. We have made our facility as safe as we can, and we have posters in prominent locations that make the CDC guidelines clear. That said, we must rely on each person to make the choice appropriate for themselves while being respectful to others. If you join us here on campus, you can sit in the sanctuary or you can watch the service on the pavilion. If you have not been vaccinated, you are urged to wear a mask. If you have been vaccinated, your options are greater. Now, let's try to clear our minds of the concerns outside of this space and time and settle into this time of worship with this morning's prelude.
I roll the window down and then begin to breathe in. The darkest country road and the strong scent of evergreen from the passenger seat as you are driving me home. Then looking upwards, I strain my eyes and try to tell the difference between shooting stars and satellites from the passenger seat as you are driving me home. Do they with my feet on the dash. The world doesn't matter. When you feel embarrassed, then I'll be your pride. When you need directions, then I'll be the guide for all time. For all time.
Afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road. Healthy, free, the world before me. You, road, I enter upon and look around. I believe you are not all that is here. I believe that much unseen is also here. Here, the profound lesson of reception, not preference nor denial. None but are accepted. None but shall be dear to me. I inhale great draughts of space. All seems beautiful to me. Whoever you are, come, travel with me. However sweet these laid-up stores, however convenient this dwelling, we cannot remain here. Together, the inducement shall be greater. We will sail pathless and wild seas. We will go where winds blow, waves dash, and the Yankee clipper speeds by under full sail. Along to that which is endless, as it was beginningless, to undergo much, tramp of days, rests of nights, to know the universe itself as a road, as many roads, as roads for traveling souls. Let's join together in the chalice lighting response on the screen and in your order of service. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. And let's rise and join, if you are able and willing, in our opening hymn, number 1064 in the Teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home, by Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter Peter Mayer.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you, Sean and Abby. That was great. Thank you all. It sounded good. Just having a congregation that's singing back, even in limited size, is a wonderful thing. So many of you know that Ann and I travel north and south up the East Coast once, twice, and sometimes 3 times a year, going not necessarily home to where we lived, though we stopped there to visit, but moving further north and traveling to our spiritual home on the western border of Maine on a lake called Kezar. We love to drive. We travel well together. We play games. This past year, we tried to come up with as many names of towns in the state of Massachusetts as we possibly could as we were driving north. I'm sorry?
We were able to come up with 263.
263 names. Right, not right. Our son Nathaniel had done this with a group of friends and had come up with a few more than what we came up with, but there were 5 of them and only 2 of us. So, anyway, Ian often, or occasionally anyway, will fly home from Boston to get back here to see clients and continue with her work. Some of us anyway, need to work, and. Which leaves me the opportunity to travel in a car the length of the eastern seaboard. And sometimes I do that as quickly as I possibly can. Done it in 2 days, and sometimes that felt fine, and sometimes it felt absolutely terrible. This time, however, I decided, or actually I didn't decide what I was going to do. I had multiple options. I just wanted to enjoy the journey. And I wasn't sure whether I was going to go a different route south, maybe down the Delmarva Peninsula, or I would go out west, which is eventually what I decided to do, and head towards Cooperstown, New York, and the Baseball Hall of Fame there. I'd never been there and had wanted to visit for a long time. So I dropped in at the airport. I visited with my sister. I got in my little hybrid vehicle and headed out Route 2 west, heading on the north side of Massachusetts along the border with New Hampshire and Maine, into the apple country of Stowe and West Acton and Harvard, out into mill country of Leominster and Fitchburg, and beyond that, picking up the Millers River at Athol and following along the Millers River all the way to the Connecticut. Beautiful country, wonderful roads, areas that I'm familiar with and feel at home with. The Connecticut, as it passes through Massachusetts at that point, is already a significant river. And on that day, it was beautiful, but gray and moving quickly from rain earlier in the week. And crossing the Connecticut, you begin to meet up with the Mohawk Trail. The Mohawk Trail is an avenue of transportation that has existed since before colonial times, even before the tribal people that we know of by name, west of the Appalachians, the Mohawks, and to the east, the Nipmucks and the Massachusetts. The trail had existed across the mountains there for as long as human beings inhabited the land. As the travel grew, as vehicles grew, the trail got wider. The pathway got a little smoother with human engineering. But it is a beautiful, beautiful road, and one of the earliest scenic highways in America. We travel along the Deerfield River through Shelburne and Shelburne Falls and up into the foothills and then into the Appalachians, the Berkshires, and then the Taconic Range. And further beyond that, you can see the rolling hills of New York, undulating supporting farmland and forest. The Appalachian Mountains are one of the oldest mountain chains on Earth, having originated nearly 500 million years ago when the African plate and the North Atlantic plate collided in the formation of the supercontinent Pangaea. So since even before we were a separate continent, this mountain chain existed, once as high as the Alps in Europe, and since eroded. At the top of the one of the highest points in the Appalachian over the Mohawk Trail is the town of Florida. So as I was driving west and Ann was flying south, we were racing to Florida, and I actually got there before she did. She had many delays on her travel south, but mine was a nice journey to Florida at the top of the Berkshires. One of the things that I find when I travel is that I begin, as I often do in meditation, considering the sort of my own life, my own foibles. But slowly, as I deepen into a connection, a sense of space and time, those things tend to begin to drop away, and I get a grander sense of the world and this beautiful planet in which we live. Traveling the highways and byways to Cooperstown, and then from there down the Susquehanna, following the Susquehanna on the Susquehanna Trail, heading south on 81, but then taking time off in the Shenandoah Valley to go side to side and visit places. Just get a much grander sense of this earth on which we live and our place in it. The land deepens into us, and the journey becomes all. I hope that today you'll join me on that journey and find, at least in this service, some sense of space and time. Now let us deepen into our time of sharing and meditation with this morning's centering hymn. This is my song, number 159 in the gray hymnal. Again, the words will be on the screen.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Honor my song, the
So as we enter this time of sharing, I will remind you that at least for the time being, I will not be coming out into the sanctuary with a microphone until we both feel more safe with the virus, and also until we figure out exactly how we will handle joys and sorrows. If you have some thoughts about how we might do this, understanding that we are streaming live on Facebook, recognizing the importance of this time in our community, we are sort of at a conundrum as to how to move forward. So, if you have ideas about that, we would welcome you. And this morning, we honor all our ups and downs of every day and every week and every year. Those times we feel great joy, and those times we have great concern, either for ourselves or for others. If you have a name that you would like to speak into this space this morning, I would urge you to do that as I indicate. And we will hold those names and light a candle of community at the end of that. I will begin by saying that we are deeply grateful and happy for Christina Wright, who underwent successful neck surgery this past Tuesday. Christina went into it well prepared, but very anxious, as were we all. She's been through many surgeries before. Some went okay, and some not so okay. And this week, she's just grateful for a wonderful experience here in Southwest Florida, and grateful she's home and rehabilitating with George at her side. So, Adrienne, if you have any others that you would be interested in sharing?
No, we'll have something in Caring Corner.
All right. Caring Corner will go out. It didn't go out last week, which we apologize for, but it will go out this week. If you have a name that you would like to speak into this space, I urge you to do this as I offer you that time with as my hand moves across the sanctuary. Joys and sorrows, anyone that you are concerned about.
Janet Signer. Daniel. Jillian.
I offer the name of my sister Susan, who's still recovering from a second bout with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and a fall with a broken hip. She is hoping to join Ann and me in Maine on our next visit there, and we hope that she'll be able to do that comfortably and safely. Thank you for sharing. We hold those names in our hearts and light a candle of community for all those names, for all those joys, for all those sorrows left unspoken. As we enter into our time of meditation, it might be good to acknowledge that our lives are always in flux, buffeted by things within and beyond our scope to change. Please join me in this spirit of meditation. I begin with a quote from the writer John McPhee from his book, Annals of the Former World. McPhee writes, "Geologists on the whole are inconsistent drivers. When a road cut presents itself, they tend to lurch and weave. To them, the road cut is a portal, a fragment of a regional story, a proscenium arch that leads their imaginations into the earth and through the surrounding terrain." The Appalachian chain is made up of sedimentary and volcanic rock, as well as slivers of ancient ocean floor laid down more than 1 billion years ago, all metamorphized with heat and pressure, limestone into marble, shale into slate, sandstone transformed to quartzite, intrusions of magma forming bodies of granite. Traveling through a cut in these mountains created naturally by the constant flow of water or by the cleverness of human engineering, we might not be aware of the stories these seemingly sedentary rocks have to tell of an earth always in flux, of steady formation and violent upheaval, of slow erosion and the laying down of new sediment, the creation of life-giving habitats and their destruction. We might simply bless the road builders for easing our journey or curse them for scarring the land. We might hold to a comfortable sense of solidity and permanence in the gray rock. But how often do we stop and look and touch the ancient rock that can speak to us of constant change on a deeper level? Our own lives exist on a much different time scale. And yet we too are in constant flux. We too have our stories, the layers we have laid down and the upheavals we have endured, scars that show and scars that have healed. And it's good to stop every once in a while and ponder the depths of our own natural history, searching for bedrock and finding it perhaps not in time or place or permanence of being, but in love and in companionship with family and friends and fellow travelers on the ever-changing, ever-challenging journey of our lives. Let's share some time together.
In planning for today's service, we looked at a quote from Wendell Berry, who was an American author, environmentalist, and farmer. In 2002, he wrote, "Until we understand the land, we are at odds with everything we touch." This piqued my interest. Might it have an insight about not being at odds with things? But as I went about examining what lay behind the quote, I found myself thinking more about how we use understandings of things in our lives. I came to think of understandings as being part of the framework of how we live our lives and how our lives fit with the world around us. To start, it makes sense that to use an understanding as part of that framework, we would want to have a sense of connection with it. So, how do I feel about Barry's understanding of the land? Here's a summary of that. Humankind must leave the trappings of civilization for the woods where these are absent. At this point, I'm going to quote, "Only in this silence and darkness can they recover the sense of the world's longevity, of its ability to thrive without them, of their inferiority to it, and their dependence on it." End quote. Then they may become more aware of the sounds, colors, and odors of the land, and know that their place is among the other things that grow from the ground, and realize that humankind's place is not different from that of the other living things in the ground. Initially, I did not connect well with Berry's thoughts because man's place in the world seems unalterable and without accommodation to what separates him from other living things. Here's another viewpoint on understanding the land. Late in my maternal grandfather's life, he wrote a reflection describing his memories of his early life in rural Vermont in the 1890s. After creating a picture of the sights, sounds, and smells of nature on his hikes to school, he wrote, "No doubt the wanderer of many years back would have had a more outstanding portrait of this picture and the acceptance of faith and signs in it. One man he knew was of copper skin, whose self-mastered knowledge of the signs and ways of the forest and its protectors has been a great asset to the lovers of the woods." I prefer this understanding of the land because man is active in the relationship, learning about it for himself and from others. Let's hold the examples aside for a moment. We certainly do not live our daily lives trying to analyze how everything that is coming at us fits with our framework and the understandings in it. However, there is something that was stressed in my college studies of teaching and learning that I want to share. Saying students understand some aspect of an area of study is not nearly as useful as looking at the skills and knowledge they can demonstrate in that area. That is, understanding is reflected in action. Over time, we evaluate the part of our framework that comprises how we live our lives and may take action accordingly. Joining this congregation is one of the ways I adjusted this part of my framework, and it has led to a number of new understandings being added. Our world today is one of harsh realities and stark contrasts. This makes the task of evaluating the part of our framework related how we fit into today's world difficult. Further, as the two examples show, understandings come with a point of view, and reactions to them have a point of view as well. And this is a particular problem in our times. Let's go back to the examples. Berry references dependence and coexistence, although he does not use that word. My grandfather's relates a theme of respect for the land and appreciation of it. Sound familiar? Across both examples, we have the fiber of UU's seventh principle, to respect the independent web of all existence. So I need to take action and explore more of Barry's writings. UUs are fortunate to have our 7 principles, already conceived and articulated by others, as supporting structures in our frameworks for life. When attended to, they can play a role as we evaluate, adjust, and demonstrate our understandings. As part of larger communities and as members of the body of Unitarian Universalists, we also engage in striving to find ways to make our principles a larger part of the world around us. In this task, I hope we will remember that the spirit of our UU principles may not be entirely absent from another point of view. But most importantly, I hope we'll remember that purposefully looking for community based on the principles has the potential to serve as the beginning of a framework on which to build a new or better level of understanding.
Still journeying, to wanderers at rest, to wayfarers still journeying, to wanderers at rest. The ones who walk in their own footsteps only end where they began. Only end where they began.
Musings of a Traveling Minster. How many noticed? The editors in the crowd, good. Ellen Procopo out there in the ether noticed. None of us are perfect, especially me. As I mentioned, in traveling south, especially without my constant companion in the passenger or driver's seat, I tend to circle back and back, walking in my own footsteps often to where I began, thinking about why I did something or why I didn't do something, why I don't do something, why I'm not the best I could be. Why other people aren't the best they could be. But the journey is all. William Least Heat Moon, in his book Blue Highway, quoted Gertrude Stein, who said, "In the United States, there is more space where nobody is than where anybody is. That is what makes America what it is." Moon writes, "The uncluttered stretches of the American West and the deserted miles of roads force a lone traveler to pay attention to them by leaving him isolated in them. This squander of land substitutes a sense of self with a sense of place by giving him days of himself until, tiring of his own small compass, he looks for relief to the bigness outside, a grandness that demands attention not just for its scope, but for its age, its diversity, its continual change. The isolating immensity reveals what lies covered in places noisier, busier, more filled up." We do fill up our lives with stuff, with schedules, with busyness. As I said, we all have our work, whatever it may be, whether it is keeping our house or volunteering or working to improve ourselves in a skill, a hobby. And there is always that constant chatter that comes with the monkey mind of the human brain, fortified by the news on the television, by the constant chatter on the radio, keeping us busy and away from ourselves. A journey allows for some distance between that chatter and an opening up to the world. As I was driving down the Susquehanna River, which means Oyster River, named so by the Native Americans who farmed and harvested oysters near its mouth into the Chesapeake. I was just overcome in one moment by the beauty of it, the constant motion, the white water, a regular flow I have nothing to do with. The world moving outside of my small self. The journey is all. The way. A sense that we do need within ourselves to continue to move, to look beyond our own footsteps, to think about how we might, in fact, change and grow in deeper ways. Larry's reflection spoke about our interconnectedness and our sense that there are other ways for us to consider how to move forward relevant to our principles, related to what we truly believe as bedrock. As I traveled on this road this past time, my travels were sandwiched, if you will, by two local meetings here in Collier County. In May, I attended a meeting of the City Council of Naples as they considered an ordinance to create a sanctuary city for the unborn here in Naples, a place that would honor pro-life, and in doing so would suggest that an individual's right to choose is not really their own right. As I was driving back, I was thinking in preparing for another meeting for the Collier County Commissioners who were considering an ordinance for a sanctuary county for the Bill of Rights. These two ordinances were sponsored basically by the same group of people who are anxious, who are fearful, who understand that life changes and they don't like it, much like we don't like it when things change for us. And I began to think about how we deepen into this reality of a divided land. Our centering hymn, this is my song, speaks of country where my heart is, my hopes and dreams, my holy shrine. And in this country, there are two nations, two groups of people whose hopes and dreams rest here, not in other lands. Hearts that are beating with ours, but dreaming of something different, How? How do we, as human beings, connect? How do we live our values and find in some deeper level, in some moving level below the surface, a commonality where we understand that we all believe in that interdependence. And quite honestly, ministers' musings don't always sort of come to wonderful insights, except that this is not a time for us to sit comfortably in our chairs and not act, because not acting is a choice. It's a choice in many different arenas not to participate, not to do, not to make change. And change has and will be constant whether we take part in it or not. So best that we put out our best foot into a new piece of ground, create a new path, a new way. My musings as I traveled this time were difficult in that I am not a person who likes conflict. I don't welcome it, which is one of the reasons I'm thinking about studying this during my sabbatical time, ways that I can begin to understand how to resolve both conflict within myself and conflict within a group of people and among. And it is being able to get that larger sense of space, of land, of connection, of home. We all have our own fears, which drive our angers at people who don't agree with us. And the same is true for folks who have different viewpoints. Human beings whose hearts beat as ours do. However we do it, whatever we do it, it is imperative that we live our values out into the world. Our sense of the dignity and worth of every person, no matter what their political persuasion. And not dehumanizing. Our sense of the right of conscience, that we all have a right to choose. Our belief in our interdependence, and that nothing good will happen unless we can figure out how to do it in some way, somehow together. The Scottish poet Edwin Muir wrote about the way. Let me close with that. The poem has two voices. Friend, I have lost the way. The way leads on. Is there another way? The way is one. I must retrace the track. It's lost and gone. Back. I must travel back. None goes there. None. Then I'll make my place here. The road runs on. Stand still and set my face. The road leaps on. Stay here forever. Stay. None stays here. None. I cannot find the way. The way leads on. Oh, places I have passed. That journey is done. And what will come at last? The way leads on. Our hopes, our dreams for this beautiful land must find commonality with others through patience, through a sense of our own worth and the worth of others, and our interdependence. I sort of jumped in where Larry was supposed to give a reading, and I think perhaps it might be a good finish.
I agree. Today's reading comes from Joy Harjo, currently serving her third term as the 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States. Joy is an internationally renowned performer and writer of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Here is her poem, Remember. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people and all people are you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. As we consider today's message and listen to Sean and Abby play Shenandoah, let us always also take the time to give thanks for this congregation and all that it does. This morning's offering will be gratefully received. If you're at home, the information you need to donate is on the screen.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country roads. All my memories gather round her, miner's lady, stranger to blue water. hazy taste of moonshine, teardrop in my eye. Country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, I hear their voice in the morning hour. She calls me. The radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads, dirty roads, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, mountain mama, take me home. Country roads.
Thank you, Sean and Abby. This time following the offertory will be dedicated to any major announcements or information about upcoming all-congregational events. Everything you need to know about the ongoing activities at UUCGN can be found in our Sunday news email or in the regular news blasts or by going online to our website at www.uunaples.org. Next week, our pulpit will be graced by Zen Buddhist teacher Lori Lyons, followed on August 8th by our own Kathy Sharon. We hope you will join us on Sunday, August 15th, when we'll be celebrating the official start of the new congregational year and the restart of our religious exploration program. It'll be great to have some youth rejoin us in the sanctuary that day. And now let's join with Sean and Abby as they lead us in our closing hymn, number 295 in the gray hymnal, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. The words will be on the screen.
Sing out praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, like our forebears.
You are loved. Go in peace, following the highways and byways of your soul. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. And have a wonderful day.